So welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to hear the candidates. We are the candidates from the Board of Education. First, we're going to get an introduction from everyone. They'll have 2 minutes to give an introduction. We do have someone who is not able to be here today, but did give us a statement. So I will read her statement, and then we'll move on to the questions. We will give everyone a chance to go first. They'll have 1 minute to answer their question. So Mary Ellen will have a minute to answer, and then we'll give everyone a minute to answer, and then Beth will go first for the next question. Everybody got it? All right, here we go. So this is for Amy Lynn Holt. She says, first of all, let me apologize for not being in attendance today. My 11-year-old daughter is a competitive gymnast, and she has a meet in New Orleans we committed to about 6 months ago. My name is Amy Lynn Holt. I have 4 children and 2 grandchildren. I've lived in Henderson County for almost 30 years. 3 of my children graduated from Henderson County Public Schools, and I currently have a daughter in the 6th grade. I've always been a very active parent in their education and have volunteered countless hours in our school system. I was on the Board of Education for 12 years and did not run for re-election in 2022, so I've been off the board for a little over a year. This last year, I've really missed being involved, so I'm running for re-election. During my tenure on the board, I've been the vice chair and the chair, taking on key leadership roles. Things that I have accomplished during my tenure are, I worked with Commissioner McCall and Councilwoman Hensley to help implement a program called Safety Around Water for 2nd graders. This program teaches hands-on water safety lessons in the pool, partnered with the YMCA. This program is phenomenal and actually saves lives. As chair, I worked with the county manager and commissioners to allow us to renovate the Stillwater building and complete Hendersonville High School the way the community wanted it completed. I worked with the board to get the commission to put Edneyville Elementary's new school up higher on the priority list of getting the school completed much sooner than originally prioritized. I worked with Henderson County Public School staff and commissioners to put together a list of the school system's capital expenditures prioritized in order of needs so that commissioners could anticipate expenses before they happened and create a funding stream. As chair, I worked with the county manager to implement putting a police officer in every school, keeping our children safe from outside threats. I fought endlessly to get students back to face-to-face instruction in school during the pandemic and allowing parents to have the right to make the decision of whether have their children wear a mask. No form of government should make these choices for your children. That is solely a parent's right. In closing, let me say it has been my honor to serve the community in this capacity for 12 years, and I would love to continue to do so. All right, and now we're ready for Mary Ellen.
All right. Can you all hear me okay? Great. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to join the forum. As mentioned, my name is Mary Ellen Custon, and I'm running to serve the kids of Henderson County by bringing to bear my experiences as a mother, a youth sports coach, a math tutor, and a public policy professional. My husband and I live in Hendersonville with our 2 young kids, and as a tax-paying mother of children who will be in our Henderson County Public Schools through 2037, I am invested in our schools. I grew up a short drive down I-26 in Columbia, South Carolina, where high-quality public education propelled me through a bachelor's degree in math and 2 master's degrees, 1 in science and 1 in public policy. So in short, I'm a math and science gal that really likes people. And I know my way around a budget. I know how to invest taxpayer dollars to get the biggest bang for your buck. And I get the importance of public education and its impacts on our local economy. Study after study shows, as I'm sure y'all are aware, that the return on investment in our public schools is positive. And when we are able to strengthen our economy's competitiveness when we invest in our future workforce. And furthermore, I strongly believe that robust public education plays a vital role in keeping our democracy healthy and our communities vibrant. My commitment to community service in Henderson County is reflected in my membership in the Kiwanis Club, as well as serving my 3rd year on the Environmental Sustainability Board for the City of Hendersonville. I've been blessed to be able to live out my values through years of volunteer work and a career in the nonprofit sector. I always have had an eye toward the future, especially for kids. And to that end, I want the very best for each and every kid in Henderson County. I am passionate about ensuring student success, and that is why I'm fighting to put kids, not politics, first. Henderson County wins when our schools shine. Thank you.
Okay, and now we're ready for Beth.
Hey, thank you for having me today. My name is Beth Campbell, and I am running for school board for 3 main reasons, and that is my girls. I have lived in Henderson County, worked in Henderson County, ran a business in Henderson County for many years. I have 3 daughters who are all in Henderson County schools, and they are almost 17, 11, and 6. So I've got a wide array of schools. I've been fortunate to be able to volunteer throughout all of their education in all of their different schools that they've been in. I have been able to work within the schools on many different projects, fundraising projects. I've been very active with our PTO for many years. I've even had the privilege for the last couple years of being able to assistant direct in our high school for their musicals, and I've seen how the arts have really impacted these students and the community as well, and I have greatly enjoyed being able to be a part of those students, and I get to spend time with them as older students and seeing what they go through on a day-to-day basis. Life has definitely changed for them since I went through Henderson County Public Schools and graduated, and I have as a former domestic terrorist mother myself, I have seen this struggle. I was a part of that struggle to fight for our children, and when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter what it is, my kids will come first, always, and I believe every student has the right to a quality education. Our teachers should absolutely be supported in everything that they do. Our children need to know that we are here for them and that we are going to fight for them. Like our superintendent said, our children over our own, what we want and what we think. It's about them. It's about what they need and giving them everything that they need to succeed. Thank you.
Okay, and now we're ready for Tay.
Good afternoon. Before I begin, I'd like to just thank you all and God for the opportunity to be here today. I am a local product of Henderson County Public Schools. I attended Little Folks Preschool. I went off to Bruce Drysdale Elementary School, attended Henderson Middle School, then transferred into Flat Rock Middle School, and then I currently went and graduated from East Henderson High School and then went off to get my bachelor's from UNC Chapel Hill, the first public university in the country. Go Hills. And from now, currently, after I graduated, I started off in health insurance 6 months, got the license, figured it wasn't for me. From there, I went into substitute teaching and working in all the county schools. And then from that transition, I went into the migrant education program, which worked in the county schools again all over the place. And then from there, I transitioned to North Henderson High School, where I started to serve as a Spanish teacher during Corona. And after I served as a Spanish teacher, I picked up a second job at Children Family Resource Center working with prenatal up to about 5 years old to help with that kindergarten transition, those critical years of life. And then after spending a small tenure there at Children Family Resource Center, I now came to Blue Ridge Community College and I work as a success coach where I work with adult learners 25 and up to ensure their success, whatever it may be and whatever it may entail. And so one of the large reasons I just want to serve the children, serve Henderson County Public Schools is because I want to give my God-given gift back, and that the best way to do that is to serve, right? And so I'm also a part of several boards in Henderson County as well, too. I recently was blessed with the opportunity to join United Way, Caregivers of Mother Earth, which focuses on sustainability in a large aspect, which is going to focus getting children down in the dirt again to help combat that mental health and substance abuse crisis. I also sit on the El Centro, the Latino Hispanic Coalition Board as well, too. And so I've got a lot of different experience in the community, from grassroots to serving as a mentor to college students and their processes, as well as just working with Henderson County City on their initiatives and projects in the Gen H plan, as well as working right now in the Brooklyn 7th Avenue Historic Garden with about a $50,000, $75,000 project to get folks back out in the community to get dirty and just get everything going. So thanks again.
All right, now we're ready for Robert.
Thank you. First of all, thank the people who arranged this forum. I really do appreciate it. And thank you all for being here. At the present time, I'm on Henderson County School Board. This is my first term, and I'm running for a second term and I've thoroughly enjoyed serving this county and serving the students and parents of Henderson County. A little bit about my background. My wife and I have lived in Henderson County for 55 years. She is a 30-year school teacher in Henderson County. I have 30 years in Henderson County, so it's a total of 60 that we've put together to serve Henderson County students. She was a 5th grade teacher. I began in 5th grade in Dana Elementary School and later was promoted to 7th and 8th grade. Later on, I moved to Rugby Junior High School and I taught academically gifted and talented students there. After a couple of 3 years at Rugby Junior High School, then it was a 7, 8, 9 grade, I moved to Flat Rock Junior High as assistant principal under Blondie Whitmire for approximately 10 years. After a stay there, I ended up my career at East Henderson High School in the guidance department with a degree in guidance and counseling, and I worked with and served the college-bound seniors at East Henderson High School. Some of my volunteer work in the county outside of the school system has been, I was a volunteer at the Elizabeth House for approximately 8 years, and I'm a member of church here in the county, as serving of deacon for 2 years and chairman of deacons for a couple of years. Also, one of my main interests, too, in my part-time, is serving the homebound nursing centers, people who are homebound, and I do a lot of visiting with them in my part-time. For a while, I was minister of visitation at First Baptist Church. However, I gave that position up to another person. But I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be running again for the school board, and it's such a wonderful job. If you have an opportunity to visit any of our schools, please do so. They are just wonderful, and the staff in our schools are so dedicated.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, and now we're ready for Michael.
Hello, everyone. Thank y'all for being here. My name is Michael Absher. I am a product of Henderson County Public Schools. I graduated East High in 2009. Yeah, it seems so long ago now. And since then, I have graduated from Blue Ridge Community College during COVID with my public administration degree and a business leadership degree. And then just in December, I graduated from Western Carolina University with my business administration and law degree. And I'm currently enrolled in my graduate program at Western that's going to be starting in August. With that all being said, part of my service to the community since the last time I was on the board from 2016 to 2020 is to continue to serve the community. I think I've been a proven community server by creating the first nonprofit in the Southeast that is helping homeless and at-risk youth with no federal or state dollars. We do it all by local people, and we have served over 4,300 kids since I've been starting this work 15 years ago. I serve on many of the county boards, Juvenile Justice Crime Prevention Council. I'm also the chair of the Library Board of Trustees, and just feel that I've been led just to continue to serve our kids and be an advocate for our community.
Thank you. And last but not least, Kathy.
Good afternoon, and thank you once again for this opportunity to be here and to speak about myself. It's very difficult for me to talk about myself, but I will give you just a little bit of background. I've been an educator for over 45 years. So if I try to tell you everything that I've done, I couldn't squeeze it in 2 minutes. But anyway, just to hit some high points. I started out as a high school math teacher. So Marianne, I share your love of numbers and math and rules and logic. So I did that for 8 years before moving into school administration. I started my school administration here in Henderson County and was assistant principal and principal in high school for a span of over 7 years. After that, had a small child and wanted something still in education, but I was very blessed to be able to have an opportunity to serve as assistant superintendent for curriculum for this school district for 17 years. I didn't realize I'd spent that much time until I got ready to retire, and I said 17 years. I'm very proud of that time because what I was able to do with curriculum and instruction the last 5 years, what I saw was our children thriving and growing. My last full year in Henderson County, our students scored the fourth highest performance composite in the state. Now, that's not on me, that's on a lot of people working together and pulling together to do that hard work. But it's very rewarding to do that. After I retired, I worked for WCCA, now WNC Source, for 2 years, a little over 2 years. So I really got familiar with the world of pre-K. Currently, I'm still not retired. I teach for Gardner-Webb University in the master's program for school administrators and continue to work on the board.
All right, thank you very much. All right, now we're going to move to our question section. Again, you will have a minute, and everybody will get a chance to go first. Make sure you're paying attention to the time, because a minute goes by quickly. And we will start with Mary Ellen down there. These are audience questions we're starting with first. And the first question was, what experience or qualification, which you've kind of just said. So let's say, what is the most important that you think you bring that will contribute to the board and improve the education system?
Thank you for that question. So I think first and foremost, my answer would have been different before having kids. So now that I've been a mom, been home with my kiddos during the pandemic, and been their first teacher, I bring that experience proudly to the board. Secondly, school boards are tasked with books, buses, and buildings, and as I mentioned, budgets also that's I guess my fourth B, falls under that. And so being able to understand policy, read policy, understand budgets, comment on it in a way that reflects logic and the community needs are the second most important thing I would bring to the board.
All right, thank you. Okay, Beth?
Thank you. As a mom for 17 years now, and being able to spend so much time in our public schools across our district and volunteering my time not only out of the classroom, but in the classroom as well, and being able to work with teachers one-on-one, work with school administrators one-on-one, working with some of these programs that have come into our schools and been able to be a part of orchestrating those within the schools and how they're going to work, working with other groups of moms and dads. We have a lot more dads now working with PTO organizations than we've ever had before, and that has been vital, seeing how these kids have thrived. I was part of that, working with getting Henderson County sheriff's officers in each and every one of our schools, because our kids' safety is just as important as everything else. And so just being able to work with groups, work with organizations, and get things done, and that's what I do. I get things done.
All right, thank you. And Terry?
I reckon I got two different things that have had an influence to make me a great candidate for the school board. One would definitely be my tenure at the local Boys and Girls Club of Henderson County, which I attended since about 5 to 6 years old and started working at 14. So in essence, and volunteering at 10, I was a kid working with kids. And I remember a script written by our previous executive director, Julia Hockenberry, that said Tay Brown's superpower, and I love it, was able to get down on his knees, look eye to eye with a child, and re-envision what it meant to be a child going up against the world. And to me, that was one of my superpowers, and that's what I want to bring to the board in a larger fashion for the kids across Henderson County Public Schools. And then my education. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, got the understanding of budget readings, policies. I'm currently enrolled in a Master's in Social Works program right now as well, too, to work on policy and also to work with my best friend who is getting ready to graduate from UNC Medical School and hopefully bring back the dream and work with kids all over Henderson County.
All right, thank you. And Robert?
Well, about running for school board, first of all, having been in the school system for 30 years, I've been in practically every position possible within that school system from grade 1 through 12. I remember when I first started teaching, they asked me to teach first grade summer school, and I thought, sure, I can do that. I don't believe I'd want to be a first grade teacher again, but however, serving Henderson County students is one of the greatest things that, and giving back to the community. You know, they gave me a job for 30 years and supplied my family with a decent home, and my son went to graduate from this county too. And with my experience and my know how living here in this county for so long, it's just been a wonderful time of my life, and I look forward to serving again for the students and the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Michael?
So I guess, okay, there you go. So I would say I have two qualities that make me a great candidate. One is experience. I spent 4 years already on the board, so I know how the board works, what the policies and what the procedures are, because I helped during that process of the rewriting of all the policies for a couple of years. And two is I'm a proven community fighter, because whatever I put my mind to, I work towards and I fight to make sure that everybody has everything that they need to be successful in life.
All right, thank you. And Kathy?
And I guess it goes without saying that I would have to say one of my biggest qualifications is my experience and having the opportunity to work in pre-K through higher ed throughout my career has given me an opportunity to see that perspective from reaching back to where, you know, kids are in early childhood all the way to our adult programs and master's programs. So I believe I have that perspective. I've been in the district and worked in the district for over 30 years, plus my 4 years, ending my 4 years on the school board. So I have a passion about children, and I have a passion about teaching and learning, and I believe strongly in our school system. I know we're not perfect. We've always got room to grow and to improve, but I would like to be a part of that.
All right, thank you. And now for our next question, Beth will be first. What are your top 2 educational priorities that you wish to accomplish during your time in office?
Thank you. So one of the main things that I would really like to see our district focus on is tackling this issue of over-testing our kids. I have seen, especially this last year, the impact that testing has had on particularly 5th graders. I have a 1st grader, a 5th grader, and a junior in high school, and I have watched not only my 5th grade student, but other 5th graders coming into school day in and day out frustrated. They are upset. They are worried. They are comparing themselves to every other student. They have so far this year alone done 6 North Carolina check-in tests in 5th grade, and they're not done. They are testing in between those. These kids spent 2 years fighting to get back in the classroom and to learn. Half of these students learned, how do you learn phonics when you don't have somebody teaching you like this? These kids have struggled, and I really would like to see that as a main priority going forward.
All right, thank you. Tay?
So the first ones, I believe they coincide, mental health and substance abuse, and the second one would be working with disconnected youth. And so across the board, as I mentioned, I'm a big advocate of getting in the dirt, getting dirty with technology, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT going along. There's a lot of mental health crises running through our county right now. And so I'm really a big advocate in just getting folks back outside, during those times where we had to have the street light on before we had to get home, getting dirty in the garden, something that everyone can be a part of and that brings life to tackle that mental health and substance abuse, and also disconnected youth, because when we can focus on some of the most marginalized people, regardless of color, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, and we start with that bottom group, by virtue, I believe it brings everybody up along with it. And so for myself, it would be disconnected youth and the mental health and the substance abuse crisis right now that I believe a lot of our youth in our county are going through.
All right, thank you. Robert?
Two of the top priorities for me is, number one, is increase our reading and math scores in lower grades. Number two is keeping and recruiting qualified teachers. At the present time, we need teachers, we need teacher assistants, we need bus drivers. And the big part of that in keeping those and recruiting those is money, salaries. So if we can increase salaries, if we can increase supplements, that's a plus for our county. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Michael?
I would say two priorities that I would like to see is, one, increasing our student service department, that to actually make sure that we have all the resources available for any of the youth that need help, and also give those support services to our teachers and help working with them to understand more of what is needed. Two is, because I know what is under the authority of the school board, we have to work and advocate with our state legislators to make effective educational change. We can't do that if we don't have a good relationship with our state legislators.
All right. Kathy?
Well, for me, one of the things that I would like to see us work on is restoring the public's trust and confidence in our public schools. I don't think we have that big of a lack of trust here necessarily, but when I see it statewide and nationally, I think there is truly a lack of confidence and trust in what we're doing. And I'm all about transparency. I think the way we fix that is we're very transparent. We welcome the community, parents specifically, into our schools at any time and engage them with the work of our children. The other thing, I'll go to what Mr. Bridges said, is our teacher and staff shortage. Not just teachers, but all staff positions. You know, every business now, some have had to shut down because of lack of staff. Well, we are seeing that here as well, and we have to work on that.
All right, thank you. And now, Mary Ellen, way back down yonder.
Thank you. Agree with much of what was said. For the top two priorities, I'd say the first one is teaching kids to think for themselves. They are bombarded with disinformation and misinformation like the rest of us, and we need to empower them to tell fact from fiction. I think of what my dad used to tell me when I was in school, which was, do your absolute best and the grades will follow. So to give permission to kids to fail, to learn, to grow is so important. Secondly, I'd say we want more school, not less school. So I'm thinking back to school board meetings recently, like what Tay was mentioning with addiction, talking about vaping, talking about what's going on in schools with kids who are dealing with substance abuse. Sending those kids out of school in indefinite out-of-school suspension for repeat offenses does a disservice to them. I would say bring back Saturday school, make more school, not less school, and to continue to work with community partners to, say, move vape shops away from our schools. Thank you.
All right. Now for our next question, Tay will be first. Are there any parts of SB 49 that you take issue with and why? If so.
To be honest, I believe it's from kindergarten to fourth grade right now. However, as we've all noticed right now with COVID, with the mental health and substance abuse, forcing another thing onto a teacher's plate to deal with in the classroom is just unacceptable. Secondly, there's boundaries that have to be drawn when it comes to parents' rights and their decisions and what goes on in those conversations. And there has to be an aspect, when I'm thinking of a child, I think of their community, I think of their parents, and I think of their schools. And there can't be one that overrides another. And so they all have to work in collaboration with one another and respect those boundaries and ensure that they're being met when it comes to making decisions for our children. And so particularly just respecting those boundaries and making sure that if possibly extending that age group and making sure it just doesn't run through our elementary school, but potentially our middle school and high school, in my opinion.
All right, thank you. Robert?
Parents must be informed of what's going on in our schools. And for them to be informed, they can visit any of our schools, contact the principal or counselor, and ask questions about student rights, parents' rights. We're in the process now, I think our lawyer's in the process of developing a manual for each principal with questions that parents may have about student rights and parent rights. So I would encourage each parent, if they have questions or concerns about what's going on in our school, to contact the school itself and the principal. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Michael?
So I don't have any issues with the Parent Bill of Rights, as is so-called, because I think we're very fortunate in Henderson County that we have a very good relationship between parents and the school staff. The only concern that I see in some of this is when we cannot reach the parent or the guardian, especially example of the homeless ed kids that we deal with. But otherwise, I've never had any issues to be able to make sure that we're informed. And even I look at the library book situation, I think our school system does a very good job protecting our kids even before the Parent Bill of Rights came out.
All right, thank you. And then Kathy?
Thank you. From what I know on the Parents' Bill of Rights, which I've read through it, and we have been versed on it from the school board perspective, we've looked at our policies to make sure that we are updating with any needed language to comply with that. The good thing is, like several of the other candidates have said, Henderson County Schools had policies in place already as far as you have to opt in for sex education, you have to opt in for this survey or that survey. I'm not a big fan of surveys, and I think we have curtailed all surveys at this point, unless, particularly surveys that ask questions about sexual behavior, family values, that kind of thing. We don't do any of that anymore. I think it's always important that the school system be transparent to parents, and that parents be given an opportunity to examine any kind of materials that we are using in our classrooms. It's a two-way street, building that good relationship with parents that they know they can call and ask questions. So I really have not seen anything in that Senate bill that would cause me any pause at all.
All right, thank
Could
you.
I add to that?
And then next go around, if you want to
Okay.
tack that on your minute. Mary Ellen?
Thank you. Yes, I take issue with Senate Bill 49. I mentioned at the beginning that I'm fighting to put kids first, not politics. The pieces of the bill that scapegoat our most vulnerable children is a huge problem.
You done?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then last but not least, Beth.
So I'm grateful that we have this. I'm sad that we've come to this point that we need it, but in the world that we live in and the attack that our children are under daily, it's become necessary. I do agree with what Ally had said earlier, that there are a few things that maybe we need to clarify the wording just so that we know what it's encompassing, so we don't get lost in loopholes and we don't leave those doors open for people who would come in and take what we are trying to do to protect our kids, because at the end of the day, that's what it is about. It is about protecting our children. We are parents. We are supposed to be teaching these things to our kids. Our children don't need gender identity issues in elementary school. That's not stuff that we need to focus on. We have got to focus on getting them prepared for the next step of their education. So I'm grateful that we have it. I'm sorry that we do have it, but I hope that going forward, one day that it won't be necessary.
All right, thank you. Okay, for our next question, Robert will be first. What are your thoughts, and you can tack on your thing if you'd like, what are your thoughts on parents who want sexually explicit books out of the school system?
Take them out. I think the books that aren't, some books in our elementary schools should not be there, period. If they're sexually explicit, if they have anything to do with younger age or, they don't need to be there. Take them out. If a book is, I don't know. I think that books should not be allowed for younger students that have to do with sex, gender, things of that nature. If they are take them to the public library and take them out of our schools, period.
Michael?
I don't think we have an issue, I don't have an issue with a parent asking for a book to be removed. I think most of the time, if there's a book that is in there that has been lost from parents' attention or school administration attention, I think it needs to be brought up to public eye. I think about it this way, when the banned book list came out, we were chartered by the Henderson County Board of Commissioners to reevaluate our books in our library system. And we found maybe 3 of those banned books were actually in the children's section, and we just politely moved them from that section and put them under adult restrictive, where a parent has to even sign them out themselves. I don't have an issue with it. I think there's a proper way of doing it without causing a big ruckus.
Well, since the majority of our students that we serve are minor students, only a small percentage of our students are 18, I don't think sexually explicit books have any place in any of our libraries. There are procedures. Most of the procedures are very all the procedures are transparent, but if a parent objects to something, some content, it's typically not sexually explicit material, it's maybe language or other things. And I'm very conservative and old-fashioned, so I think we can have good literature without having vulgar language as well. It doesn't have to be just about sex, it could be many topics, but I just think we have to remember that there's a fine line between censorship and making sure we keep our children focusing on literature that's appropriate for their age.
Thank you. Mary Ellen?
I'm against censorship, and I'm for quality and age-appropriate curriculum for sure. Our teachers do a wonderful job doing that, and I trust they will continue. And I agree with what Michael said, that it's important to put the appropriate age books in the appropriate section. I'm very concerned that some speak up and say that there is smut and pornography in our schools, and then they hide behind that and start to erase marginalized and vulnerable communities and erasing history and erasing their experiences. Not all books are comfortable to read. People's experiences are hard. People have tough things that happen to them, and they persevere and they go through that. It is important for kids to be able to see their own experiences reflected in literature. That's not to say that needs to be taught in every classroom. It's just to have it, to start censoring, to start banning books. You go to a slippery slope of what the Nazis did.
Beth?
Thank you. So, first of all, I don't believe that any sexual content needs to be in any of our school libraries, period. Our kids have enough access to that on the internet and music and everything as it is now. Our kids need books. It's sad that they don't even learn out of books anymore. We want to talk about banning books, but yet we don't even have textbooks in our classrooms. So are we really having this conversation about books? But our children don't need that. There are plenty of public libraries with sections that those books, if they want to read them, can be there. There is plenty of quality books and stories and adventures that children can have access to. And while I understand that there's some things that are historically uncomfortable, we need to teach them, absolutely. They need to learn history all across the board, the good, bad, and the ugly. But when you have a book that's historically accurate, that is pertaining to sexual adventures in the books, they don't need to be reading that. If you could not read it at a school board meeting, it should not be in the school.
Okay. Tay?
Like I mentioned before, it's a matter of respecting boundaries, and boundaries for me, it isn't a teacher's job, it isn't a library's job to teach a child about sexuality, orientation. That's a parent's job, that's their religion, that's their philosophy, and so I do veer away from that, especially when my nieces come to me I won't mention the grades, elementary and middle school, but, and they bring some conversations to me, and I have to look at them in their face and say, well, if you do A, B, and C, you're gonna die, just to scare them away. And it sucks having to do that, but already the accessibility between technology, between their friends, between everything that's going on, I don't want to add another layer to that. And so I am not in favor of allowing sexually explicit books within classrooms. I mean, as we all know, with the state legislator right now and across the nation and the bans of pornography, it's out of control right now. And so these children are so impressionable. And so to put another thing in front of them that's only going to add on to those things, it's worrisome. It is worrisome. And so, yeah, keep it appropriate, keep the boundaries.
All right, thank you. And now, Michael will be the first to answer this question. There are teachers and parents concerned about indoctrination of kids from gender, sex, race, DEI, et cetera, but are afraid of speaking out for fear of retribution. How do we address this problem?
Just coming to my mind, the best way to address the problem is talking to the immediate supervisors. I think I've found in previous experiences, if I had an issue, feel comfortable with your immediate supervisor. I think our new superintendent, which is great to have someone from the outside, brings in a totally different perspective. And if there's someone that has immediate concern, they just need to reach out. Because anytime I've had an issue, I reach out to him or even Dr. Marlowe, and they will take care of the issue pretty fast. I've never seen them not take care of an issue. And I've talked to some of those teachers that's had a concern and directed them to it, and Mr. Garrett has taken care of that issue.
Kathy?
Well, just for clarification on the question, you're asking, ask that question one more time. Indoctrination of kids.
Can you restart the time? There are teachers and parents concerned about the indoctrination of kids, gender, sex, race, DEI, et cetera, but are afraid of speaking out for fear of retribution. How do we address this problem?
Well, again, I think if we've built trustful relationships with each other, being the parent and the teacher, if the concern is that what the teacher may be saying or proposing or indoctrinating the kids in, well, we shouldn't be indoctrinating them in anything, any of our beliefs. But I think that it's building that good relationship with those teachers and knowing that if I have a concern as a parent, I can talk to that teacher. And I echo what Michael said about our superintendent. Has very much an open door policy. The principals are there at the schools. I say if you got a problem as a parent, you start with the teacher, then go to the principal, and then if you don't get a resolution or you don't feel comfortable, then you go to the superintendent. And we all need to feel comfortable, and we need to feel like we're sending our children to a safe place.
All right, thank you. Mary Ellen.
Thank you. So I see some familiar faces from the school board meeting. Want to remind everyone, school board meetings are the second Monday of most months, not March usually because of the spring break, at 4 p.m. If you can't make that, you can email all the school board members, Mr. Garrett. We've had people get up at school board meetings and read a statement on behalf of others. If you're a teacher that feels like you're being oppressed, have someone else read your words for you. I take issue with the question of indoctrination too, and I think it goes back to believing that our teachers have the best interest of students in mind. If you really feel that a teacher in your life doesn't, scream that from the rooftops. But in general, our teachers, in my experience and in many that I've heard already, want the best for our students, want to teach them their ABCs, want to teach them true history, true math, true, the ability to think. And I think we dance around conspiracy theory when we think there's this shadow school happening where teachers are holding seances for our students. That is not true, and we need to think better for ourselves.
Beth?
Thank you. So first of all, the question wouldn't be asked if we weren't seeing it happen. And while we may not be experiencing some of the things that are going on in the world around us and in our country, Other states are having more issues with certain things than what we are, but if we ignore the problems, then eventually they do make their way here, and eventually they do become a problem. We're where we're at in society because we ignored those problems for so long, because we like to pretend that we live in a bubble in Henderson County because we're traditionally a conservative county, and those aren't our problems, but when you open the door, and the door has been opened, we as parents know the door has been opened, those things do eventually seep in, but I believe that we are working hard in Henderson County. I don't believe our kids need to be indoctrinated into anything. They need to go to school to learn, to be taught, and to be given the best quality education possible.
Tay?
First off, I'd like to let y'all know I'm a black, white American, and DEI is diversity, equity, inclusion, and so there's a lot of talk around the racial aspects of DEI. And personally, from my analysis, a lot of the times it's lip service, unfortunately, because people want to talk, people want to complain, but no one's doing any work. And so for me, I got 3 options. 1, we talk about it. 2, I don't feed it because it's a distraction. Or 3, I get involved. For me, diversity is not just a black and white issue, because what I'm thinking about is that farm boy who grew up, farm white boy, right? If we want to get down to the racial aspects, compared to maybe with that Micronesian student, right? It's not black and white, and there's a larger conversation that unfortunately a lot of people want to shove. That's not being talked about. It's shoved down one specific way, and this is really unfortunate, because diversity is everybody, right? It's not just a racial thing. And then I think about inclusion, which is safety, right? Get involved with your children's education, get involved in the PTO, get involved with the committees and things along those lines, but don't be fooled by this media and this lip service from the left.
If a parent feels that their student is being indoctrinated, first of all, they need to contact the teacher. If the parent gets nowhere with the teacher, then go to the principal, and then from the principal on to the superintendent. Our superintendent is very transparent here. We've had several occasions on where people have had problems, and immediately he has instructed his team to go to that person or that parent and clear that problem up. If they can't get it cleared up, then he will take on himself whatever the problem is. But he's very, very transparent and open for communication. You've got to have communication between parents and the administration. And parents don't need to be afraid of contacting the school system if there is any kind of problem at all.
All right, thank you. And now, Kathy, do you think school choice, including charter schools, is helpful or harmful for a school district? And if so, or explain why.
Well, when we first had school choice in North Carolina come on the scenes, I think we all in public schools were afraid. But then what we came to learn and realize is competition is good. There is nothing wrong with competition. And it makes us work harder to be the school of choice. That's what we want to do. We want to be the school of choice. And again, we're not perfect, but we keep working hard. We keep trying to grow and improve. There's nothing wrong with school choice, and there's nothing wrong with parents who choose to send their kids to a charter school or private school or wherever. It has to be a parent's choice. But we want to be the parent's first choice.
I agree that parents absolutely have a choice. You're welcome to send your kids to a charter school, to a classical academy, homeschool, church school, whatever you want to do. What I take issue with is public dollars being taken away from public schools. If you have a public charter school, that school should follow the same rules and regulations as a public school. That school should take kids with special needs and serve their needs just like a public school. I am very concerned that the voucher system is taking our tax dollars out of our tax-supported schools. And if you want to have your kid in any other school, absolutely, take your kid to that school, but I don't want my tax dollars following your kid.
And then Beth.
So I agree with what Dr. Revis had said, that our parents should have a choice. That's part of what we've been fighting for all along, and that's what we continue to fight for, is for parents to be able to advocate for their kids. One school might not be right for one child. You might have 3 children, and you might need one in a private school. That might be the avenue that they need. Children learn differently. But guess what? You're going to pay for that private education, and we know that as parents. Now, I've had a daughter in a charter school and out of a charter school, and I have seen the benefits of both, and I've seen the downside to both. And I think that, like she said, our schools should be the schools of choice, but if we're going to have public charter schools, I think that our tax dollars can work just as well for them as they can any other Henderson County school, because at the end of the day, it's about giving our kids the best quality education, whether that be at a public school or a charter school.
Okay,
I like options. I believe we as humans like options, and I don't believe it's my right to trample on someone's options that they choose to go through. In addition to that, I'm a big firm believer behind options, and so to say one is the right choice and one of the others out of my ballpark. And there is this level of competition that comes with having private schools and allowing folks to put them in there. But I also believe there's a level of accountability that comes with that, like Dr. Revis was just mentioning of, I believe North Carolina, out of the 100 counties, Henderson County Public Schools is 16, and so in my mind, with the growth mindset in my head, it's using these private schools to bring us to that top 5, right, to make us one of the top 5 schools, and so if that means we're in competition with private schools, charter schools, to hold us accountable, to always be better for the kids and everyone we work with, then so be it. I don't mind a little competition, but once again, I just don't want to trample on people's rights and their options to make the decisions they want to. In addition to that, I do like that accountability that's going to level us up here in Henderson County Public Schools to hopefully number 1 one day.
thank you. And Robert?
Yeah, I agree with most of these people up on the panel. A public school is not for every student. So there is an option for charter schools or private schools. However, I agree with Ms. Custis about taking the money away from our public school system to help support the private and charter schools. But if a parent feels a need to enroll his or her student in a private or a religion school or charter school, then so be it. But I totally support our public school system in North Carolina.
Thank you. Michael?
So school choice has always been one of those interesting topics over the last few election cycles, but I've come down to a single thing. It's the parents' right to choose, it's the students' right to choose, because a lot of times they have a say in where they would like to go. And then if a private or charter school is violating a certain part of federal education law or state law, then that should be reported to those agencies. I do have an interesting thing, a thought, is everybody pays taxes. So if a parent is paying taxes to send their kid to school, what is the issue of that money following that kid? Because it creates healthy competition. Just like Dr. Revis said, it just makes us strive to do better. They already get some of the county dollars anyway. So everybody should follow the money, but at the same time, allow people to have that option. And if someone is violating federal or state law by making sure a kid doesn't get the service, then they need to report that, no matter what school they're at.
We've made it all the way through, but we do still have some questions. But I think you guys have all done a good job of getting all of your thoughts in, even though you weren't first. So we're going to let Mary Ellen go first again. How should the district address underperforming schools?
That's a great question. They should call a special meeting, I think. So I think parents do need to be in the room when discussing they should be the first to hear about the schools, not necessarily getting a letter after it's been deemed from on high that they are, quote, failing. I see a lot of principals getting kicked out quickly when the school is failing, and I would excited to be on the board and learn more about the behind-the-scenes process, because I assume there are more conversations happening leading up to that. But if not, I think we should be supporting those principals that are struggling and figuring out what the problem is and perhaps we already are. I also take issue with how our state thinks about how we look at schools. So it's 20% of your grade of a school's grade is the improvement of the school, and 80% is test scores. I think that's backwards. I would advocate to switch, because I think the effort that the school is making and the strides that they're making should matter more than test scores, which do not, on a bell curve, serve students equally.
Okay. And Beth.
Thank you. Obviously, first of all, you need to find out where your problems are. And again, every school is going to be different. Is it the administration's fault? Probably not, but there are many different aspects of understanding where things can go wrong within a school. So identifying where your issues are, meeting with your school, meeting with your teachers. Talk to your teachers. If you want to know where a lot of issues are happening, communicate with your teachers, because they know what's going on. Get with your PTO groups, talk to your parents. Getting people together, having transparent, open conversations, and I think so often parents have felt left out of a lot of things, and I know especially during COVID, we weren't allowed to be as involved, and I think it is getting people back involved, getting back in their schools. You're going to find a lot of your issues with what's going on in your schools do have to do with what's going on at home. So open, honest conversations, getting teachers together, parents together, administration together, and your district together, and working together.
I immediately thought of three things. One is talking to the kid, talking to the student. Why aren't you performing well? Working in the high schools and working with the migrant education program and serving as a substitute teacher, I saw kids laying their heads on their desk. I saw kids sleeping in the classroom. And when we got down in the eye-to-eye level, I noticed they weren't maybe eating on the weekends. They weren't getting that appropriate sleep. And so one, we've got to make informed decisions for the populations I'm here to represent. Secondly, our community is rich with nonprofits. I believe we have over 300 nonprofits in this county alone, including churches. Why not just tap in and collaborate more and build off the existing relationships we already have? And thirdly, we have a huge business community as well too. And so the investment from business stakeholders as well into resources and investing into our students as well, I believe that's an open lines and a relationship that could be developed as well too. And so I don't believe there's anything new that I'm talking about. I believe the wheel's fine. It's just about developing it more.
Thank you. Robert?
Under GS 115C-105.39, within 30 days of initial identification, the superintendent shall take one of the following actions. Every school district should have a school improvement plan, and within 30 days of the initial identification of a school of low performing by the state board, the superintendent shall submit to the local board of education a preliminary plan for improving both the school performance grade and school growth score, including how the superintendent and other office personnel administrators will work with the school and monitor the school's progress. So we have a plan in place in our county for a school improvement plan for those schools who do not meet the necessary or the grade levels that are average or above.
All right. Michael?
So I was going to say some of what Mr. Bridges said. The state mandates school improvement teams, and then they have to figure it out. But then also, too, we are very fortunate in our county. Sheila Dell, that's on the school board, is working with that mentor program. I think once that gets entailed, our school improvement scores are going to go skyrocket because kids are going to have additional support. All they need is people there that care, whether it's to talk about FAFSA or college or a job or the future. If we take care of that, everything else is going to improve. We talk about administration choices. I think it's good to have fresh blood every once in a while. I think it brings new and innovative ideas. So don't think about it 100% as a negative thing for administration to be moved.
And Kathy?
Well, in 1 minute, it is totally impossible to talk about how to take an underperforming school to a performing school. I've been there and done that, worked with schools. It is multifaceted. I will tell you this, the teachers who work in underperforming schools are working the hardest they can work. They are. And nothing is any more devastating to them than to see their children's test scores come back lower than the state average. You know, our accountability system is set up such that it's 80% about performance, meeting that strict performance standard, and 20% of growth. And it's very difficult, but it can be done. We've done it. It's a lot of hard work, it's pulling teams together, it's a lot of professional development, it's bringing parents and getting a lot of parent involvement, but it's multifaceted and it takes time.
All right, thank you. We have one more rapid fire. It's just going to be yes or no. So we're just going to go, because we're at 3:59. So we're going to start with Beth. Will you uphold the laws and policies set in our county and state? Just
Yes.
Yes or no?
No.
I did not when we voted for the early
Just yes or no?
start. No.
Yes.
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 All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, guys. I thought you did a wonderful job. I learned a lot all about all of you, and have a wonderful rest of your Saturday.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you so much, Blue Ridge Community College, for letting us have it here and all of your help with this, setting this up. Thank you, candidates. You are all fantastic, very worthy of being candidates. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you being here. It's going to be a hard decision. You all gave wonderful answers to questions you didn't even know were coming, so I'm really impressed with everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you all to the volunteers that helped with this event. It took several of us, lots of hours to put it together. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you for coming.
All right.